at the Wellness Radio TV podcast. Welcome to this episode of Sisters of Wellness. Our goal at Sisters of Wellness is to bring together women who can help inspire us as women and inspire us to move forward with our families. One of my favorite African proverbs is, if you teach a man, you teach an individual, but if you educate a woman, you educate a whole family. And so I am so very pleased to have as my guest this evening, all the way from Los Angeles, California, Krishna Kaur. She is a recording artist and she is a Kundalini yoga teacher, the founder of Yoga for Youth, a program that was started many years ago as a result of what she saw with African Americans and brown young people going to jail as a result of the 3 strikes that you're out. And I was so privileged to be able to sit with her in teacher training. And there she is, right here and right here. Hello, Krishna Kaur, Satnam.
Satnam, thank you for inviting me. This is beautiful.
So how's it going out there in Los Angeles? You got the fires. Are you able to breathe?
Breathing has to happen no matter what. So, yes, it can be a challenge, but we're used to it. Every couple of years we have big fires like this, and it's here we have fires. Other places they have tornadoes or, all kinds of other things happen. Nature
Right.
continues to impact us in ways that we are forced to have to look at what's real and what is not real and respond appropriately.
Right. And as we are speaking of nature, some areas that are under watches because of a hurricane. And then on top of all of that, we are in the midst of COVID-19. We are in the midst of social unrest with Black Lives Matter. We have a presidential election that's going on in this country, businesses that have had to be closed, people who have lost jobs, people who have lost loved ones. There is so much emotional energy in the air right now.
Yeah.
What is it that you are saying to people that you're working with?
Wow. Well, it's an opportunity and it's a challenge. What I have learned through my practice over the years is one major foundational thing that I cling to says if you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all. I just
Wow.
have to back up and look at situations and say, okay, oh Divine One, what do you want? What do you want from me now? What am I supposed to learn from this? What am I supposed to gain? How am I supposed to grow with this? It seems so challenging and so much pressure and so much stress and trauma. But when I breathe and step back, I realize that things are constantly changing and that it's not the thing that we're engaging with that creates our stress all the time. Sometimes it's the way we have been trained to look at it, how we've been trained to respond or react to it that creates our emotions, it creates our stress. So by learning to balance my way of seeing things and turning to the divine and saying, okay, what do you want now? What do you want me to do? How should I hold this? How should I receive this? How should I understand this? It gives me a sense of peace because I know that in some way, somehow, I'm going to learn something from this situation.
So you say if we do not see God at all, we don't
In
see
all.
God in all. If we
Yeah.
don't see God in all, we don't see God in all, which is in,
All. At
at
all. If you don't see God in all, then you don't see God at all. So I grew up learning that God is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient, and omni. And that means everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. And therefore, my fundamental belief system is that if I cannot understand that there's a purpose for everything, there is a divine purpose for everything, whether it feels like a tragedy and it is a tragedy, or a hardship or a joyful thing, if I can't see the divine in all of that, then I'm probably missing some underlying message or opportunity for me to grow.
Well, let's just give an example. How do you help people to see God in tragedy? A loved one has died.
I know.
Um, my business has had to close because of COVID. Just the underlying, fear for my African American sons and daughters every day. What do you say to people? How do you see God in that? How do you lead people to seeing God in that?
Well, let me put it in another context for you. When I'm seeing that I'm being directed to do something. I'm being directed to understand something here so that my actions are not full of pain and sorrow and regret, but open enough for me to be creative, to see and understand what can I do that's meaningful? How can I respond that's meaningful? What can I do that will be helpful and uplifting? I'm just like those beautiful folks who are just taking care of those who are being impacted by this COVID. I mean, they're my heroes, and I'm saying, why guru? You know, so it's like seeing that there's an opportunity for me to be responsible, for me to feel clear that this too shall pass, for me to be able to understand that in some way I'm being asked to do something, and that something is not to be afraid or not to resist, but to try to relax and then think clearly, what is my job now? And it doesn't mean that I don't suffer. It doesn't mean that, things are not hard. It's not that at all. It's that in the midst of all the hard stuff, I've been crying for days for different things, and celebrating. But inside, I know that somewhere there's something that I'm supposed to do, that I have a job in here. And what is that? And that's what I have to find. And I can't find it if I'm reacting. I can only find it if I get still and listen to the divine when the divine is speaking to me.
My guest is Krishna Kaur, who is a Kundalini teacher and a recording artist in Los Angeles, California. And so, how do you recommend that we get to that place of stillness?
It's a process, and it's something that it's like a wave. It comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. And I have found through my practice, and I've been practicing yoga for over 40 years and teaching it, but practicing it is the most important thing for me. It gives me a sense of balance so that I can be of service. I can be of help. I can be able to support others. And it's a process. You begin where you begin, and you don't get frustrated. You try not to get frustrated. You just keep trying. If at first you don't succeed, then you try and try again. And over the years, I've become more able to drop into that, though it's not always the case, but more able to.
For those who are participating, those who have elected to stand for what they feel is right in the rallies, because I know there's some people who are watching, when they're in the midst of um, that struggle, Black Lives Matter. I mean, Krishna Kaur, you have had the honor of being with us for a number of years. So you were here for the civil rights movement, for integration, for Dr. King's assassination, for Rodney King, the riots in LA for Rodney King.
Mm-hmm.
When you see those kinds of things happening, how do you? What would be your advice? How do you do that kind of work and remain calm?
You know, I am so focused and dedicated to Black Lives Matter. And I was very, very focused on the Rodney King situation and Dr. King's situation. You know, and I realize that what we're starting here is we're starting to wake people up. We're starting to wake them up in a way that they haven't been awakened before. And that takes some time, but it takes some consistency, a dedication, and a belief that your efforts will come to fruition. And I may not see it in my lifetime, but I will be sure that my effort will go towards that. So it will be of support when it has to happen. There's no quick answers to things coming to an end. There's no quick answer to things being fixed. It's a process. And this is one thing that's a process. It's been going on for too many hundreds of years, for it to be over quickly. But I love seeing that the sports teams are into it. I'm so happy that there's so many Black men and women on these teams now. And they have a voice now, and they have a platform now, which they didn't have 40 years ago.
Right.
And so now it's changing the texture of everything. And I'm thinking, thank you, oh Divine One. If you had anything to do with these people getting on these, because they've been talented for years, for generations, but they weren't allowed to participate in the way that they are participating now. And so I say that is a blessing. And so I'm going to say, basically, we just keep going. We keep doing what we have to do, standing for what we stand for without any hesitation or doubt or fear. When I see people out there actually protesting, demonstrating, standing up for what is right, they're fearless. They're walking, they're chanting, they're singing, they're praising. They're standing in front of those firearms and the tear gas. They're fearless, and that's an example of how we have to be. We have to be fearless when it comes to standing for what is true, what is right, and what is not right. If it's not right, call it. Give it a name. This is not right. And if it is right, give it a name. This is right. And we should all be here standing up for this. And we have to be patient and know that everything comes in a certain time frame. It doesn't mean stop or slow down. It just means to know that it will take time and continuous effort.
And for our white brothers and sisters who are watching this, and as you mentioned about being awakened, what do you say to them who may have been surprised to see what we have seen via people's cell phones and body cams, with the interaction with law enforcement, with people who have been a part of these riots, who actually started the fires, who started the looting, and it really wasn't the protesters? What do you say to them watching, and how can they embrace truth and love?
Well, I think it's up to everyone, Pamela, to find out what their foundational belief system is. What do you really believe in? And I think for those who are awakened now by the situations that are going on now with the Black Lives Matter movement, I think it's great. And I would say to them, try to figure out what it was that you have been missing. Because sometimes if you can figure out how you missed something, it'll help you find out how to not miss it again. And I think because this is not a new thing that's going on, we've been suffering these issues for hundreds of years. The fact that it's been awakened means that it's time. First of all, it's time. And secondly, I think that those who are seeing it and hearing it and understanding for the first time, welcome.
And so you welcome, yeah. So you say to think about, how did I miss it? How to think about how did you miss it? If you live in a bubble, and when someone said something to me once about privilege, and then I remembered something that I read that said, a fish does not know that it's swimming in water, because that's where they've always been.
That's right.
And so now that it's being brought to light, what is happening, it is troubling for a lot of people.
Yes, I think it's going to turn a lot of lives upside down for those fish who've been swimming in water, and that's what they know. And that's such a true statement that you've mentioned. But I do think that there's an awakening happening. I do think that there's a lot that's going on spiritually on this planet. I do think that there's a lot of people who are waking up in many ways, and this is one of them, and this is a big one. And I think when you wake up in one area, then you begin to see things in another. It's I remember one time when I was working with my aunt. I was a teenager, and she lived out in Paris, California, and I got a job out there cutting onions because it was the only job I could get, and I needed to have some money for school. And I had no idea when I thought I had cut up all these onions and all these buckets of onions that I had done a really fantastic job until I looked up and saw that the others had hundreds of buckets of onions already cut up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
How did I miss that? How did I not see that that was going on, you know? And so I realized that our minds have been trained to see certain things a certain way.
Mm.
You know, our culture, our society keeps giving us cues all the time, subliminal cues about how to think and how to feel and how to understand yourself relationship to the world. And until those bubbles have been burst open, we can be very safe in those little containers. So I
You
think that the internet has had something to do with that, has opened up the eyes for people to see more of what's going on.
So you have recorded, you have authored books. What do you think, what brought you to this journey, or did this journey go and pick you?
Well, how much time do we have?
What was that?
I said, how much time do we have?
Well, you know,
I'll make it quick.
it's my show. We can go.
Well, it wasn't a fast journey, but if I look back, I can see that the seeds were planted when I was really young. I just didn't know it. And so thinking about how could you miss it, you could miss it easily. But as I got older and I was in the theater actually in New York, and I was doing quite well with shows on Broadway and off Broadway and television and film and so forth, I was very pleased with myself and I felt very good about what I was doing. But something started gnawing at me. And I mean, gnawing deep inside that forced me to ask these questions to myself. Why are you here? And how are you supposed to serve your people?
Hmm.
How are you supposed to worship God? Because my family was very diverse religiously.
Mm-hmm.
My mother was Science of the Mind, father was Methodist, grandma was Baptist, and the kids were all Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
We visited each other's churches all the time and saw that they were all saying the same thing. And I began to ask, well, what is that place that I can become very comfortable in? And I did a search. Took me several years of trekking through Europe and trekking through Africa, asking these questions of who am I? Why am I here? How can I serve my people? And I sort of stumbled into this yoga class, and it just seemed to open up so many vistas of clarity. I was able to see, I was able to relax my brain, relax my stress around my worry and fear. I was able to just get open enough to be able to say there's something that's available. And if you just stay open and receptive, you'll find it. But by striving so hard and pressing so hard to know what it is and to look for it and to figure it out, that was causing me so much stress that I couldn't possibly be open to seeing and understanding it when it came to me. And so it was that started my journey. And soon afterwards, I started teaching yoga in South Central Los Angeles, mostly to kids to begin with. And I realized that that's what I was supposed to do. But it didn't come right away. It came as a thought when I found myself sitting in a yoga posture like this, you know, saying, "Oh my God, you know, is this it?
Hmm.
Is this it?" You know, and I just started laughing and laughing at myself and singing some of the old songs I used to sing when I was in the shows on Broadway. You know, and I realized that I had found my path, I found my journey, and found my way to serve. And it wasn't something that came because I was looking for it at the time. It just happened to come. And
Yeah.
I think that's often the case, the thing that we want the most because we have so much tension around the wanting, it's kind of eludes us. But if we were to find a place to sit and be still for a moment and allow and open the space for whatever the divine wants to bring to you, you know, then you'll get it, you'll recognize it when it comes. I believe you'll recognize it when it comes to you. And
Why
that's
am I
what I always
here?
thought. I said, well, I know I'll know it when the time is right.
Why am I here, and how can I serve?
Yes.
So, hello to my friend Carrie Knox in Jackson, Tennessee. Thank you for watching and sharing. And all of you who are watching and sharing, I really, really appreciate you being a part of this conversation, because we started Sisters of Wellness because I want to tap into sisters who can feed back into us. And Krishna Kaur, you have been doing that for many, many years, and you continue to do it. And so that's why I'm so thrilled that you agreed to be a part of this show today. When we talk about the young people, and we met because I took your uh, yoga for youth training,
Yes.
and you talked about teaching yoga. Before we get to yoga to youth, and let's go back. You were in different kind of religion, and what for those who watch who think, because I've had people question yoga for me because I grew up Pentecostal. My father was a preacher, both grandfathers preacher.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people don't understand, they get caught up in the rituals of religion and spirituality. They don't understand the difference. But what do you say to people who feel like they should not be doing yoga?
Well, first of all, this is a really important question that you're asking because, there are historical documents that trace yoga back hundreds of thousands of years. Some parts of India where people were black, parts of Africa where black people were and are rather. But if you don't want to do it, then don't do it. I don't think there's any pressure, no pressure ever. But I think I like to see it as it's like karate and Tai Chi. These are disciplines that are foreign to this particular culture here in the United States. But they have a very deep way of connecting with the soul and science and subtlety of life. And so people find a way to embrace it because of that. To me, yoga is like that. Yoga doesn't belong to any religion. People from all faiths practice yoga. And it is not a religion, so it doesn't compete with religion, but it is an art and a science. And it also has a spiritual science to it. And spiritual sometimes, like you were saying, gets confused with religious. And I think that it's difficult for people to unwind that, to unpack that. But I would just say that try it and find your own devotional way of relating to the divine, however you relate to the divine. I honor and respect them all. And let that be the way that you go inside of yourself and get peaceful. Use your own prayer, use your own meditations, use your own thoughts about you and your relationship with the divine, and still gain from the kind of physical, uh, emotional, meditative growth that you get from doing yoga. I used to belong to an organization called the Interreligious Council of Southern California. And they had head leaders and head ministers and priests and rabbis from all the religions in the Southern California. They met once a month. And I was there representing the Sikhs because I was the Sikh. I'm a Sikh. And and we had many gatherings, especially on our retreats, where we would share things about each other's faith. And we'd say, what is water like in your faith? And so everyone would talk about what water meant in their faith. What does light mean in your faith? We talk about that. And we said, what was a cult like? And they all came out and said we were once a cult. So there's a lot of exchange that went on there that helped everyone to broaden their view of each other's way of worshiping God. Because one minister said as he was being celebrated for his retirement, and he was a Lutheran minister, I think, I'm not really sure. But he said, I realized one thing after being a part of this organization for so many years, that God may have limited me to Christianity, but that I cannot limit God. That was a pretty broad statement because God is everywhere, and some languages are different and some customs are different, but it doesn't mean that they're relating to a different kind of an energy, a divine force. You may call it God, you may call it Oludamare, you may call it, Yahweh, you may call it this, whatever you call it, that's from your culture. But it's the same energy that we say exists for everybody, and they call it whatever they call it because that's what the name they came up with. Then that's okay, and that's okay for us in yoga. That's okay for us to respect and allow and appreciate and encourage that.
Yeah. So How do you, and so quickly, we currently have, you started this work for youth who were part of the juvenile justice system. Juvenile justice, kind of an oxymoron sometimes. Um, and today in the United States of America, we have more people in prison than any other country in the world. And the majority of them are Black and brown people. You started this to help young people who were being arrested due to the 3 strikes you're out. Do you feel like the efforts outside the walls of the prison are not what they need to be? You guys are, it's almost as if they welcome yoga in prison more than they welcome it in schools, which I can testify to that you can get in prison and teach yoga a lot faster than you can get in school and teach yoga. And so I know that you have worked on both sides. Why is this practice so critical for our children?
Well, first of all, the reason I started it was because I didn't want them to get that 3rd strike. I wanted them to have enough peace, enough clarity, enough inner strength, enough wisdom, enough to know who they were, that they would not have to do anything that would get them that 3rd strike. And that's a behavior that I wanted them to have, and a confidence I wanted them to have. But I know that the prison industrial complex is now a privatized industry. And prisons have to make money. Anything you do that's a private industry, you have to make money. That's your number one thing. So if it's going to keep the population calm, keep them from fighting, it'll keep them from disrupting, then they're for that. They will allow that. What they don't care about, and what we do care about, is that once those individuals have the opportunity to leave, we want them to be able to leave in a way that they have enough tools that will not have to come back again. That they have tools that will allow them to see their life as it was and make a decision that I don't want this to happen to me anymore or my family. And so they have tools for being able to calm themselves down, tools to be able to slow down their reaction, tools to be able to understand when to act and when to react, tools that will help them to be stronger, steadier, more in touch with how they worship God, more in touch with what life means to them and their families. And when you practice a system like yoga, it gives you the space to think about, a space to honor, and a space to sit in that place of confidence, stillness, clarity, and strength. Strength. Yoga gives you strength, the strength to withstand all kinds of opposition and not let it pull you off your balance, pull you out of your game, You need to be able to stand in the face of any calamity, any tragedy, any issue whatsoever, and still hold your ground as a being of light. And that's going to be tested. It's going to be tested all the time,
What do you think? Why is it that you think that we have been able to endure all that we have endured in this country from the passage to get here to where we are today, 2020, and we're still here? What is it about us that we've been able to endure?
Strong spirit. Strong spirit. We come from a culture, a land that had very, very strong spirit. And not only that, that we have a power about life. We see what life is. We're not really willing to throw it away. That's what I think. And I'm not in the minds of those people. I have not done the psychological evaluation to find out really what else there is. But I feel there's a spirit that was so. Look at it. And don't even go back that far. Just go back the past 60 years. What keeps us going?
Yeah.
What keeps us keeping up? What keeps us going to school? What keeps us going to work? What keeps us doing these things? Something in us is a power of a spirit that you cannot deny. And it doesn't matter what religion you are, it doesn't matter anything. It just matters that somehow you have a spirit inside of you that says, no, not me, not today, not now. I'm doing this. And even though you get knocked down, and some folks are just they're unable to keep it going, but not because they don't have the spirit, they didn't have the support, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it's that spirit that I want to see our kids have. I want them to have that from the beginning. I want them to know that their greatness is in them, and that no one anywhere has the power to change that for them. If you own your own greatness, then no one can stop you. You may not get here where you want to go. You may not have that what you like to have, but it doesn't mean that you don't really know who you are, and that the surroundings and the issues that we deal with and have dealt with for years and years and generations, you know, it's, that's the water.
That's the water.
That's the water. That ain't the fish.
That's the water.
That's the water. You know, the water gets muddy and it gets funky and all of that, but that's the water. And when you learn to swim through this water, sometimes you'll make it to the top, sometimes you don't. But you'll never give up. You'll never
We
give
don't have that option.
No, 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 no. It's not who we are. It's not who we are. You know, it's not who we are. And that's not our job.
No.
You know, our job here right now as Black people on this planet, you know, who are, for most situations, at the bottom of the rung of cultural evolution, you know, we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. And when we are free, in the sense when the culture begins to embrace us, that every culture above us will also be free, including the whites, the Caucasians who are benefiting, you know, from our labor, benefiting from the way that we've been treated over the years. It'll even free them. They're not
Yeah.
happy. They're not all content. You know, they're sitting behind gates and walls, but you know, their kids are not okay. You know, they have privilege, but they're committing suicide all over the place. You know, they don't know who they are half the time. They're not allowed to experience any kind of challenge that will help them to know that they can do it, that they're okay, that they can manage this. You know, they've got so much cushion around them that they don't know what it's like to have a fall on a concrete sidewalk. You know,
Yeah.
and that you can
Yeah.
get up and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
That's what I want our kids to know, that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anyone says to you or what anyone does to you. You still have within you the power to stand up and say, yeah, but I'm still here.
Still here.
Still here.
Welcome spiritually in tune.
That's
Who's
right.
watching? I don't know where he's watching from, but I appreciate him watching. Listen, you have a class that you do every week. Is that open to the public?
Oh, yes. Yes. It's every Monday night at 7 o'clock LA time. And it's on Zoom. And you can find it easily. I don't know how to find things on, but you can find it easily there. But also on my website, you know, which is krishnakaur.org. And I have a meditation that we do on Fridays at 11:15. It's such a powerful moment because we just meditate. We do a little stretching to open the body up so that you can sit for a while, but it's a focus on meditation. They both go together. You know, the yoga, which gets your body strong and supple and helps your nervous system. And this gets to trauma. Your nervous system gets stronger. Your glandular system gets stronger. Your heart rate gets stronger. Your brain gets clearer. And all of this from doing the yoga postures and movement and breathing techniques. You know.
And before we go, I do want you to do a short meditation with us, and I want to say hello to my friend Beverly Bradshaw in Memphis, Tennessee. Her husband was the first casualty of COVID for Shelby County, and so we keep her in our hearts and our prayers. And as she said here, I have no idea where I would be without the comfort and the help of the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when Jesus went away, he said, I'm going to go, but I'm going to leave you a comforter. And that
Mm-hmm.
is the Holy Spirit. And we can definitely testify to what that Holy Spirit has done for all of us. And so,
Mm-hmm.
Krishna Kaur, in the time that we have remaining, I know you have to get going because you have your 7 o'clock class that you're doing tonight. that people can find by going to your Facebook page and write her name down, Krishna Kaur, Krishna Kaur. What is it that you would say to people as we begin this meditation? You know, the scripture tells us to meditate on God's word.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's uncomfortable for some people to hear you say, meditate. What are you doing, chanting? Well, you know, I grew up in a Pentecostal church. When we were tarrying for the Holy Ghost, they had us chanting Jesus, 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 Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that clapping just felt so good.
Mm.
Um, and so it's words that throw people off. But if we do not spend time hearing, how do we get our instructions?
Well, I would say, and I would suggest to anyone who felt it found their path, found their way, found the words that work for them, that they use those words. So, for example, if you're doing a long, deep breath, which is what I will need the meditation, breathing in long and deep, sometimes the best way to feel that breath and have a rhythm of that breath is to say those words that motivate you, you know, whether it's a prayer from your scriptures or whether it's just a way of your saying, Jesus loves me while you're breathing in, or whatever that phrase might be. I might say, Sa ta nama, or I might count 1, 2, 3, 4, you know. It's not so much the sound, though the sound does have a frequency and does have an impact, you know, but it's more that you're into a place of holding in a reverent space your relationship with the divine, however you hold that and be true to that, you know. So meditation that I have for us to do would be a long deep breath in, and you can count 1, 2,
2,
3,
3,
4,
4, 5.
5, or you can say whatever you want, but you say it quietly inside your own mind and head. And here's how it goes. You place your left hand right over your heart. That's where your pranic energy is. That's where your heart is. You want to call forth the love and the appreciation and the gratitude that you have for your life and for your relationship with the divine. You place your hand in this, we call this a mudra, but it's a hand position, where you lock your index finger under your thumb, and the other three fingers are straight, and they're just resting right by your side. The elbows are by your side, hand is by your shoulder. And your eyes are sort of shut down slowly. And you want to take a nice long deep breath in by widening at your waistline. And when you get a full breath in, hold it for a few moments, and then slowly breathe out through your nose. Then again, slowly breathe in. And slowly breathe out. Slowly breathe in. And as you breathe in, feel like you're breathing into your belly, down at the bottom of your lungs. And that your heart and your lungs are expanding. And when you breathe out from your chest down into your belly button and below. And what this does, this meditation, it really helps you to tap into your positive mind. Your positive mind. It strengthens your heart. So your compassion, your ability to forgive, to see, to unsee, to know is expanded there. It elongates your breath, which we know from COVID, that the breath, deep breathing, really activates your vagal nerve and the vagal pulse, which comes from the brain down into your belly. And that keeps you healthy. It helps to stimulate your immune system and your lymphatic system. So take that long, deep breath in with a sense of gratitude and appreciation for this breath. Oh God, thank you for this breath. And as you breathe out, release it, and release it with your prayer. What do you want to see, to feel, to offer? And know that the divine is with you with every single breath. Release your worry from your shoulders. Release your stress from your lower back. Concentrate in the center of your forehead and activate that part of your brain, your frontal lobe. That's your command center. You can command the prayer in a very loving way. And keep elongating your breath a little bit longer each time if you're able to, but don't strain. Just be grateful that you're still breathing. Do one more complete round of breathing in deeply. And breathing out. And this last time, I want you to breathe in deeply and hold the breath. Hold the breath. Don't breathe out and stretch your arms up. Stretch your arms way up. Yeah. And when you exhale, shake your wrists, shake your elbows, shake your shoulders, and let the breath come out. Let the tension go from the shoulders, the wrists. Just let your hands rest with your palms facing up slightly and just feel relaxed. You can do this for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 11 minutes, 31 minutes. But if you take time to sit and breathe, it'll bring your body and your mind to a place of neutrality. When we're in neutral, we can move in any direction very quickly and with ease. If we're uptight, there's just a little small part of us that's available to us at any given time, and we're not able to fully respond from our own conscious awareness. We're reacting, we're not responding. And practice gives you the capacity to extend and strengthen yourself in so many beautiful ways. You don't have to agree on anything, but just try to agree that you are worth a lot, and your breath will give you a foundation for helping you to stabilize that.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much. Appreciate having the chance to be with you. I think these conversations can go on and on and on and on and on. There's so much to uncover and so much to reveal and so much to understand when we talk to each other. And I appreciate you doing that. I appreciate you having this opportunity for us to sit together as a community.
Well, I thank you for carving out time for us today in the midst of your busy schedule. And I thank Karen very much for all of her help, your assistant in helping to make this happen.
Yes.
She's been wonderful, and salute to her as well.
Yes. Yes.
Krishna Kaur, recording artist, Kundalini teacher, spiritual leader. Thank you for all that you have done and all that you have been for me and what I've been able to share with children here in the Gainesville, Florida area as a result of what you taught in the classes that I attended in New Orleans. So thank you. Your spirit is around here in Gainesville, Florida.
Thank you. I love it. Maybe one day I'll make it there myself so I can enjoy being with you.
Yes, I would love to have you here.
It's a pleasure. Thank you
So
so much.
you're welcome. And if you would like to be a part of, let's see, in a couple hours, go to Krishna Kaur's Facebook page, and you can find her website so that you can see all of the wonderful things that she's done, access her CDs that she has recorded, as well as the books that she has written. And perhaps you will come back and join us again, and maybe we can be specific on a book. We'll talk about a book.
Okay. I'd love to see you. And if you come to the class, I always open the space to hear from everyone that's attending. And just say, you're coming from Pamela's show,
Yes.
Really fun, from Pamela's show. And that would be really cool. I'd love to see that.
Oh, wow. That would be great. That would be so at 7 o'clock your time.
7 o'clock LA time, right? So
7 o'clock
for East Coast,
LA
it's
time.
10. For Midwest, it's 9, and Mountain time is 8.
Yeah.
And on a Friday at 11:15, it's a little bit earlier for folks. So, but yeah, I've got folks coming from Europe and from Mexico and from all over to the. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Again, I thank you for what you're doing. I thank you for speaking into our lives. I thank you for reminding us to breathe.
Yeah.
On purpose, breathe.
On purpose.
Yes. Well, and we will be seeing you again.
Good. I look forward to it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
And thank you all so much for joining us for this edition of Sisters of Wellness, brought to you by At the Wellness Network. We will see you Thursday for our Timbuktu report at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Make sure that you are here. Again, I really appreciate all of you that are joining. I thank you for liking and sharing and helping to bring peace and calm in this world of chaos. Just by you being you and letting the light shine in you and through you.
Right.
Until next time, I'm Pamela Marshall at the Wellness Radio TV and at the Wellness Radio TV podcast. Remember, there is healing at the well. If you're going to do it with truth and with love. We'll see you next time.